Hello, we're going to be looking at a simple 1040EZ problem. Now keep in mind the form 1040EZ is a very simplistic tax form. So after this chapter we move into the 1040A and the 1040, which are more formal and complete forms. Let's work on a rather simple problem. And of course most 1040EZ problems are simple. So here we run into the couple of Dick and Jane who would like us to do their taxes. And Dick and Jane are married filing jointly. And so on this particular attribute they can use form 1040EZ because only people who are single or married filing jointly can use it. Dick is 30 years old and Jane is 28 years old, and both of them can see and they're not blind. So this satisfies the second of 6 requirements necessary to use form 1040EZ because both are under 65 and neither of them are blind. There are no dependents, and this is good. This is why I've written yes, because the third requirement is you cannot have any independents if you're going to use form 1040EZ. Now there's a theme developing, and the theme is that all of these conditions, using the other filing statuses, married filing separately or head of household, if you're 65 or older, or if you are blind, if you have dependents, these kind of things make your tax return a little more complicated because you get extra deductions. Now, a fourth requirement is that you can use form 1040EZ if your income is less than $100,000. And so the total taxable income is $70,000, which indeed is below $100,000. All income is from wages for Dick and Jane. So to use form 1040EZ, you can only have wages, salary, tips, unemployment compensation, or if you have taxable income, and I should have said here taxable interest income, then it has to be less than $1,500. Now, I'm a little unclear about the difference between wages and salary. These to me are usually synonyms, and they pose us no problem here. We can claim no other credits. Dick and Jane can claim no other credits. Later on we'll see if earned income credit applies, and even if earned income applies but no other credits apply, Dick and Jane can use form 1040EZ. So all 6 requirements have been met, and therefore they can use this form. So now let's go through a simple form, and I must tell you I could not get my hands on a form that you would have been able to see very well if I used it on the video. So you might follow along with the form that's in your book, but I've written out line by line what the answers are. So first, for line 1, taxable income is $70,000. Taxed interest is 0. Unemployment compensation is 0. And therefore, there are no adjustments to taxable income, and so the adjusted gross income is $70,000. The standard deduction is $20,300, $10,150 for each taxpayer. You'll see in the book that married filing joint status means the 2 taxpayers, you can use a standard deduction of $20,300. And then earlier I slightly misspoke. This is taxable income, the $70,000 adjusted gross income minus the $20,300, giving us $49,700. The TI earlier stood for taxpayer income. So each of the individuals earned $35,000 roughly, and it meant that their combined taxpayer income is $70,000. Taxable income is adjusted gross income minus the standard deductions. So let's assume that payroll withholdings are $9,000, and hopefully all of you can picture what this is. This is money that actually is withheld from Dick's check and Jane's check. So each of them get a 1099 at the end of the year. Might assume each 1099 had $4,500 in federal withholdings on it, and so the total withholding is $9,000. Now I want you to notice here that if the tax is greater than $9,000, they're going to owe some money. And if the tax is less than $9,000, they're going to get a refund. So line 8, there's no earned income credit, and we'll discuss this more several chapters from now in chapter 9. But phase out of the earned income tax credit is at, it actually ends at $20,020, which is far less than $70,000. So these two don't get any earned income credit. We're assuming no combat pay, and probably we're not going to have combat pay tested in the class, but occasionally, especially in our area, you could see somebody with combat pay. Although, quite honestly, I'm not sure in the recent past where combat pay might apply. I know when we had the wars in the last decade, people were able to claim combat pay from those. So line 9 is a total of lines 7 and 8, and that's the $9,000 that were withheld from Dick's check and Jane's check. Now let's compute the tax. So for the minute, forget the $9,000. We're going to come back to that later. Taxable income is $49,700. So if you use the tax tables, if taxable income is between $49,700 and $49,750 for married filing jointly taxpayers, the tax is $6,551. If we assume that we have no healthcare individual requirement, then nothing needs to be added here. So we have line 10 plus 11, 6,551. Line 11 might be something like if you had to pay that penalty for not having a tax, not having a healthcare plan, then you might add the penalty here. So in line 13A, we're calculating the refund, and we have the $9,000 that Dick and Jane had withheld from their checks, minus the $6,551 tax due, and they get a refund of $2,449. Most people are pretty happy with the refund. Do notice, though, that the only reason they have a refund is because they paid so much in. Take care. Let me know if you have questions.